Hello everyone, it is 5 o'clock on Sunday. I am, I think, actually on time for a change. So yay. So I had this post out earlier in the day on both my Instagram and my Facebook. So I'm hoping some people will hop on to join, but I appreciate that it is sort of Sunday dinner, getting ready for the week time. So if not, you can join me later. Okay, so we're going to get started. And I just want to share a few little things before we hop into the project. So this is the card we're going to be recreating. This is my simple stamping that I did for Stampin' Up's challenge for the month of January. And there are a whole bunch of elements going on here and a bunch of reasonings behind this card. So I'm going to share all of that with you. Before we carry on, I'm just going to show you something for those of you who are constantly creating. When my mom was here at Christmas, in addition to helping me clean and organize my craft space, which I posted about, we prepped a whole bunch of card bases. So this is thick, very vanilla and thick Whisper White, and I've already gone through a whole bunch of the Whisper Whites. But essentially, I don't use my thick cardstock for anything but card bases. So why not just get it all cut in half and get it scored? And I primarily make my cards in this orientation. So this is how we cut them, 5.5 by 4 1/4. And they're already in a drawer for me. The drawer is labeled even because that's what moms do. And it's awesome when I need to quickly get a card base and get a card going. So we're working with Very Vanilla today. So I just wanted to show you that. The other thing I wanted to show you, which is why I have this already dirty scrap, and maybe you can see it, is down here in the corner. You can see the front of my card. So sometimes if I am designing a card and I'm not really sure, I sort of have an idea, but I haven't seen it anywhere else, and I'm just kind of playing around with the spacing and the layout, I will actually sort of design an entire card front on some scrap paper. So this is my grid paper. I put this out for all of my card classes, and then pieces that I've had in class, I then just used for myself as my background. So if you're ever thinking, I kind of want to do this, but I'm not really sure what it's going to look like, and I don't want to use a piece of cardstock and then have it go to waste, although with Stampin' Up's cardstock, you can turn it over. It's such good quality. But if you're not sure, then this is a great idea. So sort of design your card in advance on your scrap. So that is my prototype, and then this was the card. And we are going to sort of recreate and then step this card up. So the color palette, I've got Grapefruit Grove and Very Vanilla. Those are my cardstock colors. And then what we are using is the 2018 to 2020 in colors. So these colors are going to retire at the end of May. So the inks, of course, never go bad. The re-inkers. But you won't be able to buy these after May 31st. You won't be able to get the cardstock. You won't be able to get the markers or anything like that. So my goal is to sort of just refresh everyone's memory on how awesome these colors are, and also for myself to use them. For me, I need to use up the paper, or I would like to. So this is where my color combo came from. So that is the start of that. And the challenge was to use a Celebration stamp set. So we were using Thoughtful Blooms. So this is one of these fabulous stamp sets that you can earn with a $60 purchase between now and the end of March. This one is photopolymer, so we love that, right? A clear stamp set. You can see I've got a lot of the stamps out because we're going to be using them. And then what you can also earn is a coordinating punch. So this punch you earn with a purchase valued at $120. So $120 to earn this punch, $60 to earn the stamp set, $180 will get you both. And don't forget, prepaid paper pumpkin subscriptions will get you free Celebration items. So if you like Paper Pumpkin, now is the time to purchase one of those prepaid subscriptions. So let's get started. Because we are using a photopolymer stamp set, I like to use the piercing mat. It just gives us a bit more pressure. And then I use a scrap piece of paper over top of, you can see I didn't in the beginning, and there's ink all over this. But now I put a scrap piece of paper on top so that if I stamp off the edges of my cardstock, it doesn't get all over my stamp pad or my piercing mat. So we're going to get out all of our stamps and we're going to work our way through this. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do to step it up, and it's going to be awesome. So I started with the green bit of the card. So we'll just have the card there in the background. So this is the Call Me Clover. Now, you could also stamp this off if you're kind of thinking, oh, that green's a bit more vibrant that I really would like. Or you could certainly use a different green. But like I said, I just kind of really wanted to work with that color palette. So we're going to continue with that. So we're going to ink this up. You can see that it's well inked. We've got all of it. Now, I want to be able to put one of those little flowers off of both of those stems. So I'm going to put that sort of like that. And we're going to re-ink it again. And then we're going to come over here. And I am just, oh gosh, I noticed on my other one I forgot to stamp one of the flowers. So I'm just kind of mimicking what I have on the other one. So that is going to kind of go a bit like that. And then we're going to stamp it once more, and we have it flourishing something like, and I'm actually going to work that, oh, well that, because we're going to do it properly this time, we're going to do that like that. Okay, so there's our 3 images of the stamp. Then I always stamp that off once so that there's no ink on there, and then I will clean that with my chamois when we're done. I am going to close up this ink because what do we know about open ink pads? They can be trouble. Okay, next we're going to move into the grapefruit, and that is just this little guy. So I'm just going to show you something before we carry on with this. So what I have noticed in my lipstick, and I don't know if it will show up on the camera, but I can see where there is less ink. So clearly I have a habit of constantly inking up my stamps in the center of the stamp pad, which makes sense. That seems to me like that's where we would put our stamps. But I presently don't have the re-inker, so I was finding that I wasn't getting a fully inked image. So now I'm inking up using all of the edges until I get a re-inker. So what I am going to start trying to remember to do as a practice, and so I just wanted to pass that on to as a tip, when you have tiny images, instead of putting them in the center of your stamp pad, why not use the edges, which are not very often used to ink up an image, and so they consistently will have ink, whereas you'll run out of ink in the center. So why not just ink up there to start with? So our little guy, these are see-through, that's great. So we can line it up just how we want it. And we're gonna just move around and ink up all these little guys. And we're not gonna forget any this time because I can see in the card that I posted where I forgot one. So I'm gonna be able to go back and fix that. And so this is pretty quick to create this image. And because these stamps are photopolymer, you can go back and re-ink anything that you don't love. So I don't love how those two are so close together on this one, but that's just sort of what happens. So I suppose if you wanted to avoid that, you could stamp the first one and then stamp these little guys, and then you would see where they were sitting before you stamp the next image. I'm not that fussed about it that I would redo this, but for someone who might be, and I know there are stampers out there who really like everything to be perfect, you could go back in there and fix that. Okay, so I think we've got them all. Yes, perfect. Okay, so we're done with that one. And we're going to put that away. So now we're going to move into the lipstick. And so this flower is threefold because we have the full petal, we have the accents on the petal, and then we have this center as well. And then in our stepped up version, we are going to add some embellishments, and I'm just kind of trying to decide which ones we might add. we might add some of those ones left over from, we might add some of those, or we might just add clear rhinestones. So we're going to put all of those out as possibles. I only have one of those. This would have been perfect. These are left over from Happiness Blooms. But we do have these. This is melon, though. You could probably use those, or you could do this card and use, these would look really pretty. Okay, enough with that. All right, so when you are stamping an image like this, I find it easier to stamp the accent piece first and then line up your full petal on top of that. I did it both ways when I was doing my practice one down here, and you can see it's not fully lined up, and so I learned from that. Okay, so we're gonna take the lipstick and we are going to stamp this image first. And then you just kind of have to line it up. There's one spot where there is a big space, so that's where you want the 2 petals to go, and everywhere else is going to have a single petal. So we're going to put that down. You can see how that fits nicely. We're going to do the same over here. And then we are going to do that again up here. Okay, so that is those 3 flowers with this accent done first. On mine, I did this in the middle. We are not going to do that this time because we're stepping this card up. Because we're stepping this card up, I'm going to be putting like an embellishment in the center, so I don't feel the need to add this layer. In my simple stamping, I sort of just felt like I wanted something else in the center, and that's why I did that. So now we are going to do the full petal color on top of that. So we need to have this be a second, I think they call this second degree or stamped off. So I inked this up. I'm going to stamp it off, even pressure. And I didn't get even pressure, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to actually do it up here on my scrap piece. Okay, and then we're going to line it up, and you can see how easy that is to line up because I've already got the darker bit underneath. Okay, so then we get a really nice, good overlapping image. We're going to do the same down here. The only reason this might not be super perfect right now is because I am standing and doing this over top. That one turned out perfect. Versus normally I would be sitting, or I should be, because I'm finding I'm getting a really sore neck in my T-spine area, I think from bending. All right, so now we have those. So we're going to do a couple of different things at the moment. I'm going to, oh no, I'm not, yeah, I'm going to close this temporarily. No, I'll leave it open. I'll just leave it to the side. Okay, we're going to move on to the sentiment, and because I am stepping this up, I wanted to emboss it. And we're going to emboss it using clear embossing powder. So I know I did a video the other day with embossing, and someone didn't realize that you could emboss with any color of ink. It doesn't have to be Versamark. So I'm going to use my embossing buddy here. And we're going to use our lovely lipstick. And then I've got my clear embossing powder. You have to label your clear because it looks white. And so you don't want to mess that up with your white. So we are going to get the sentiment, which is really lovely. I'm always amazed but never surprised by your thoughtfulness. So I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to really get it super inked because I know in the middle it's not as saturated. And then we're going to just find a spot that looks good for this and apply up and down even pressure. And then while it is still wet, we got to get it into our embossing powder. Okay, so you can't tell, but I can, or maybe you can. So now it's looking a bit dusty over our sentiment. And now we're going to emboss that. Oh, I've lost it on the T. Let's see if we can get some on there. There we go. Okay. So now we will close up the lovely lipstick and we'll bring over the heat gun and we will emboss this. So you can see it changing. So this is just an easy way to add a bit of pop to your card without necessarily adding additional layers or pieces of cardstock, needing to have a big shot or dies or punches, just a bit of embossing powder and a heat gun, and we can add some pizzazz. Okay. So that is one level of stepping it up. The other thing I thought we could do is actually use the punch. So we're gonna get out some scraps of Very Vanilla. These are the two colors that I keep bags of scraps. My other colors, I try to just put them back in with the cardstock, but with these ones, I keep them. So we're gonna pop up all of the flowers. I think that one is big enough. Yep. So I always use the smallest scrap I can, because why would I use a bigger scrap than I need when I can save that for a bigger image? So we're going to, so we didn't actually need to take so much time to stamp those, but I wanted to show you what we would do if we were just making the simple stamping version. Now we are going to do a stepped up version. So we're gonna go like that. And we could do, so maybe we will do two versions. We could do a version that doesn't have the background. So let's do one of each. So generally with these stamps, these punches, there is a one definite way that they go, and you'll figure that out. And of course they always have a bit of a border, so that's normal. So now we have that. So we could do a couple of things. When we put this on, we can put it right over top, or we could spin it a little, and then you would see the other petals underneath. I'm not loving that though. I think we're gonna do it right over top. But we are going to, just for curiosity's sake, do one without a background and see if we like the look of that better. Or, you know, you guys can let me know. So there it is without the background or with the background. So what do you think? Should we do all three no background, all three with the background? We could do two background and one without. I will wait for a second and see if those of you who are watching throw out a comment. Either way, I can stamp those guys. So I know that you're there. I can see that two people are watching. So do you guys have a comment? Feedback? Both are lovely. Yep. It's tricky. It's tricky. Well, I know that I like symmetry. So let's do this and see what that looks like, and if not, we will do all three. So again, we have to turn our punch, figure that out. So this is sometimes where, depending on what size of scrap you use, or if you're using like a full size of cardstock, you end up actually having to cut it because it won't fit into the punch in the right orientation. So that is if we have them different. I think I'm just gonna go with them like I had them on the original card, because there's so much vanilla on this card that I like to just bring a little bit of flair. All right, so we will punch this one out. Okay, so we are going to assemble this card, And we're going to assemble it as if it were simple stamping first. And then we're going to add the little extras. Hey, Cam. So that you know where we went from simple stamping to stepping it up. Okay, so here's our card front. If we hadn't embossed these letters, that would have been your simple stamping. We're just going to layer it, and there's your finished card like I already had posted today. We did clear embossing powder on our lovely lipstick to give it just a little bit of something. So we will attach that to our mat of Grapefruit Grove, which is one of my faves. I love this color. So I have an entire pack of Grapefruit Grove paper. So I was really excited that it coordinates with the Birthday Bonanza DSP, that super cute DSP that goes with the koalas, koala and the lion and the toucan, there we go. Have to start dinner, sounds good. You're gonna make this card on the weekend, so it will give you, we're gonna make this in Club Cam, so it's giving you a heads up. Okay, so then this is just gonna go there. You could also pop this up, that just, add a little dimension. Sometimes that just makes our card seem like it's a little bit fancier. You could even do a little bit of twine with a bow or a knot up here. You could use, I think there's only Whisper White twine in the current catalog, but then you could color it with your blends, or you can even run it over the ink pad. So I've seen people do that, so where they take some twine and then they just run it across their ink pad over and over until they get the color they want. Yeah, because there's only Whisper White in the catalog. So, or what have I seen somebody do? They do it with a baby wipe. So I guess they get some ink on the baby wipe and then run it across their twine. So if any of you are having this trouble, if you saw when I did the snail, it was kind of separating and I wasn't getting a nice, I find that happens if you run across too quickly. So if you just slow down and do a nice smooth application with your snail, then I find you don't get that separation of your tape runner. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's our simple one. Now we are going to step this up. So we're going to add our punched out pieces. And I'm not sure, a big dimensional might be too big, or it might be perfect. Nope, it's perfect. All right, so we are going to pop these up now, and that's just a way that we can step that up. So we could have not stamped at all underneath. Had you known you were definitely going to use the punch, you could totally do that. And then you would save yourself that step. But I wanted to show you the different process to go from one to the other. So that's why we did both. Also, if people look at your card from the side, then they can see that there's something stamped underneath. So it just does give it another little bit of polish versus not stamping anything at all. Alrighty, so now we're just going to pick an embellishment and our card will be complete. So I'm actually going to sit down and we're going to just play around with what we think would be the prettiest. I have a lot of these faceted gems, so I'm actually going to see what they look like. That's sometimes how I, decide which one to use, is if I have a ton of something. So I'm just gonna, and what I often do when I'm trying to decide an embellishment, I just lightly place it down and I don't apply very much pressure, and then you can still take it off. So I like that. I think I like that. I don't think I really want to add more pink. The other thing we could do, let's look at that, is a pearl. Since our card is vanilla, then sometimes a pearl might actually look really nice. And I've got lots of these big ones, so let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, so the three of you that are watching presently, I'm going to need your vote here. So do we want a pearl in the center, or do we want this clear faceted gem? I think I know what I'm leaning towards, but I'd be curious to see what you guys think looks nice. And I think I would make one choice based on the coloring we're using and another choice. So I think if I was making a Whisper White card, I would use this clear faceted gem. But I think because it's very vanilla, I like the look of the pearl. So that's how I'm going to make my decision. And then when I put this card out for my girls at club on Saturday, they will be able to choose whichever they like. But I am going to do the pearl. The other thing you could do with this card, if you wanted, is you could add some Wink of Stella. If you wanted a little bit more of something else being a bit shiny or glimmery. All right, so there we have it. Okay, so let's just put these off to the side and we'll just recap what we've done. So this was card number 1, simple stamping. All that we have here is ink, stamps, paper, nothing fancy, nothing extra, but still a really beautiful card based on the stamp set that we had to use, which is this Thoughtful Blooms from Celebration. Second version, we have stepped this up in a few ways. One, we have added clear embossing powder to our sentiment so that it has a little bit of shimmer and shine. It just sort of pops off the page. Secondly, we have used our punch, which you can earn with a $120 purchase. And now we have made these flowers have a second layer that we've used the punch for. And then thirdly, we have added some centers to our flowers with the pearls. All right. There you have it, people. So we have done all of that in just under 30 minutes. And you can see that if I wasn't talking and sort of showing the differences, you could easily make that card in under 30 minutes. It's easy to reproduce. And I think anyone would be happy to have it. So thank you for joining me. Happy Sunday. Hopefully your week ahead will be stress-free and productive. And it doesn't look like we're meant to have any snow, so that will be good for everyone's commute. And I just wanted to mention, so my birthday card class is still up there. It's still open for registration. It's really looking like I'm going to move it to Saturday, February the 8th, or February the 8th. Just 1 week later. It seems like just more people can attend if we move it. And I am going to be posting another class for later in the month of February, and I think it might be a Thursday evening. I'm wondering if that might work better for some people. And it's going to be a painted poppies class. So it's going to focus on this beautiful stamp set. It's going to focus on the poppy elements and the paper. So this beautiful DSP, and then somewhere in this stack of things I have my poppy elements. Oh, here they are. So these really awesome elements. So it's a product-based class. You will get some product to go home with. We will make 5 cards, and then you'll have stuff to make more cards at home. So it's going to be posted before the end of tonight, so keep your eyes peeled. All right, everyone, have a nice evening, and thanks again for joining me.